I'm so excited that Nathan Todd is part of the reopening of Visible Kindness that I have not been doing for the last 2 years. And I've picked such special, important people that I have either enjoyed and just personally benefited from. I love my guests because they've really helped me and spoken in my life, but I know that they help and speak into a lot of other people's lives. And so Nathan Todd is with us today. It was such a great time. Last time he was on the show, we ended up doing it in 2 parts, which I rarely do. I always like to do like a 30, 40-minute episode. And so today we're going to catch up with Nathan. He's done so many things. I love what he's doing. And I'm going to have him describe who he is, his backup. Nathan has cerebral palsy, which is like, it's incredible. His life is just very powerful. And I'm feeling uplifted today just getting on this show with him because I had a rough morning, and we all do. And I know Nathan does too, but he's an incredible man. I love how he's making a difference in the world today. So Nathan, thank you for joining on the Visible Kindness podcast again. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Man, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm excited just because before we even hit record, we've had a great conversation. So I'm excited to see where our conversation kind of flows to today.
Yeah, me too. And that's kind of how our first episode went. And I enjoy that with everybody instead of sticking to a specific path, because I just love where our hearts go and where our minds go that make a difference in our lives and also the people that are listening and watching as well. So give us some background, like just tell everybody who you are. I know who you are, but it'd be great to hear who you are. Like, just give us your history. Tell us about Nathan Todd.
Yeah, I like to say I'm just a dude. I was born 4 pounds, 10 ounces, 8 weeks premature, diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 2, and I'm on a mission to eradicate loneliness one conversation at a time. And, what's interesting these days is I'm really stepping into serving men with disabilities with my good friend, Dr. Michelle Finan. And this year in itself, for me, is all about feeling. I'm on this mission, and I say, to heal, you have to feel. And so I'm doing all these things to get connected to myself, my body. And I like what one guy said after we were done talking. He said, you know what? I really love that the one thing you do is you do everything just because it's part of your journey, and you don't tell us. You're not out there saying, hey, you have to do this. You're just like, it feels like you're just inviting me along for the ride. And like, that was really meaningful to me, because I hope that's what a lot of people get is, look, I'm just doing my life from the information that I have, the perspective I have, and I just want to invite you to figure out what works for you.
That's so interesting, because it's like what you're doing is kind of grown into a whole nother level, right? And I think that's what we all go through. And I really appreciated, and I've listened to more than once after we did the episode, because it was really, really good. And I recommend anyone that when you listen to this podcast, listen to the episode that we did together a couple of years ago. And I like where you're focusing on now. What brought you there?
Mm-hmm. What brought me there? A conversation with an entrepreneur who was doing stuff specifically for men. And I was like, I really like what these guys are up to. I want to see what's it going to be like if I say, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. What would it look like if I join and I have to use a wheelchair for majority of my mobility? And so it's like pretty much the message I got was, yeah, this probably isn't for you. And what that made me, like, my mind went to, isn't that interesting that the whole world is really talking and focusing on masculinity right now, but the message I'm getting is, if you have a certain level of physicality or you don't, then you aren't man enough. And I was like, look, I said it in a video before. Most programs for men are currently from the lens of military. They're like military training programs, because what they do is, in order to feel, they put you through Hell Week. And I'm like, well, okay, I know. Look, I can't be in the military. That's a fact.
What do you do?
And but I know that I've gone through just as many hard things as what you're trying to get them to do here. And I know that I'm just as resilient. I have as much grit, and I can do a lot of hard things. It just can't be done in this form. So where's the space for men like me, men with disabilities, who are often left out of many conversations? And it's like, how do we create a space where men with disabilities can be treated like and feel like the men that they actually are, and not just the little boys and the incapable people that it often feels like people see us as?
Well, I have to ask, out of that, what does it take? Because you just said there's a different way.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means, funny enough, the world talks about inclusion. I think one of the most important ways to get to inclusion sometimes, and being able to have the skills to be included, there has to be a little bit of, okay, we have to silo off, because what does it take? It takes a safe space. And, for a lot of men, even saying that, they're probably going to be like, what do you talk? Safe space? That's some bullshit. Like, I don't need a safe space. But it takes a safe space to be like, hey, we've got issues going on. But like, if I'm talking to somebody who doesn't have a disability, their level of understanding is going to be different. And that's okay, because they don't face the same experiences that we face. And, sometimes they'll be like, you just got to push through it. Well, we've been pushing through a lot of shit. Sometimes it's not about pushing. Sometimes it's about saying, hey, man, yeah, I get that. Let's just rest for a minute. Let's chill. Let's do this. And then we can go back to pushing. I know you have the capacity to push, but it's not always about pushing. It's about having a place you can go where you don't have to do that.
It was funny because, when we first talked a few years ago, I was very different then than I am now. Not only just emotionally and mature-wise, but I've had 2 hip replacements, and I have massive back problems and neck problems, and nobody knows this. I don't talk about it. And I'm not able to do what I used to do. I don't know if I'll ever be able to go skiing anymore. I'm glad I've filmed a lot, because people think I'm cool and I got lots of video. But I have not recorded, or not recorded, forget recording. I haven't gone skiing for, I don't know, 4 years now. I walk with a lot of pain. I can't run. Dude, my life has changed. Like, people do not know. So I'm having to deal mentally with okay, how am I going to live? Really, how am I going to, people see me totally differently than I am, and because I can't. It's not easy.
Well, and I think just saying that is important. Like, I have dealt with this my whole entire life. So I've lived in this body for 38 years. And so if somebody's coming to it new, you're like on day one, you're like a little baby crawling around. And so you're, if you're somebody who's got a disability later in life, it's like you're battling against your own perception of who you were in the past. And we all change
Yeah, that's right.
through,
That's
throughout our
right.
whole life.
That's right.
And it's about saying, okay, I think, you know, my moniker, the loneliness coach, right? Like it's the negative version of that. And I think one of the things that I've been gifted with is like I will speak about the negative because the negative is sometimes the most powerful reality. And so, like, for anybody who's coming to a new situation and a new part in life, it's like, okay, what am I scared to see here? What am I scared to accept about myself in this moment? And just being able to acknowledge that, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be scared anymore. But
Right.
the most important thing that we can do as humans is actually acknowledge what is going on. And, you know, the biggest things for me aren't really going to the gym. It is going in the ice bath and laying on the ground with my shoes and shirt off and just asking questions and seeing what comes up and being okay with what comes up and saying, okay, this is what I'm being shown that is mine to do. And you know, when you start having differences show up in your life, you're going to fight against that all the way. What happens if you just pause and you say, okay, I'm going to allow this to come? You know, it's going to be hard, it's going to be scary, but I'm not going to change it. Like, it's not going away. And the more I fight against it, the more that bitch is going to be punching me in the face because I'm not like, okay, you're a part of my journey now. Um, and I think that's where a lot of people feel more pain than they probably need to, is they're fighting so hard
Mm,
against what
mm,
life is showing them
mm.
that they're like, no, I'm going to be this young person forever and my body is going to function the same way forever. There's one thing that we would always say in the disability community, man, disability doesn't discriminate. And at some point, every person falls into our camp and comes to visit, who just knows for how long.
Big time. You've been amazing with what you have been doing for so long. I have really appreciated what you do. Um, so I like to ask all my guests questions. I don't always bring it up on the show, but I do sometimes. I like what you put, but I always ask everybody to briefly describe like a kindness that you witnessed, you received, or that you gave, and what was that? So because one of three things can happen: we did something for someone, or we received it, um, or we gave it, more so than just being kind, but you actually do something. That's why I use the word gave, because giving something is different than being kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wrote an interesting answer to that, and I was curious to hear what you meant.
Yeah. So what I was talking about was so many people in the world today, they need encouragement. and they're looking for encouragement. And, this, what I talked about kind of sparked out of COVID, because I was like, well, you know, there's all these great social media videos, and I trust me, I want to be doing some of those in public videos myself. But as I sat there, I thought, there's so many people that can't even get out of their house, and they could never get out of their house even before COVID, the virus,
Mm.
whatever we want to call. They're at home because of their health and their journey, and they can't leave. So how do we provide encouragement for those people? And so I said, okay, we're going to write down notes of encouragement on sticky notes. If you can go in public, cool. But if you can just post them on social media, that's even better, because people who can't leave home are going to be people that find them. And so I would have people in the loneliness solution. I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing this week. You're going to go out, and at least 3 times this week, you're going to leave a note in public for a stranger to find. And so, that could have been like, oh, I've got a card. I'm going to go to Walgreens or go to CVS, and I'm actually going to put the card in the area where they have the card so somebody can pull that out. And look, they get a random note of encouragement and a random note of kindness. And
Uh, yeah, I didn't even know you were doing that. That is so great.
yeah. And so my goal was, if you write a note, just put eradicating loneliness like a hashtag somewhere so that they can all compile in the hashtag, so that if somebody needs a note of kindness or encouragement, they can come there and they know, hey, there's a bunch of them over here. Let me go check that out. And everybody reported that they had a good time. And what I always tell people is, what is it that you need to hear? What's the word of encouragement you need to hear? And write that down. Don't try and make it fancy. Make it
Yeah,
real. Make
yeah.
it what you actually need in the moment, because that's going to serve you and serve whoever finds your note.
Hmm. That is really, really cool. I like that a lot. Um, Good for you. The other thing I wanted to ask you too was, I'd like to ask. I don't always ask this question, but it's asking some of my visitors, um, what would you like to see change where kindness and compassion would make a difference?
Yeah. So the first thing that came to my mind is, I wish that people could see themselves through the eyes of other people, through the eyes of people that they've impacted. And, for a long time, and we kind of talked about this before we hit record, I'm a very goal oriented, and I used to be very status driven by, I want to be on this, I want to do this. Like,
So when you say you've changed, can you describe that a little more? Because goal oriented, or like, what do you mean?
yeah,
What has changed?
yeah. So I look at it like, okay, how can I remember that my value doesn't change regardless of my accomplishments? Can I be okay with not doing a TED talk? can I be okay with not speaking in front of thousands of people? Can I? I don't know. The goal is to know that I am okay if none of the things I thought were going to happen. Like, I still bring value to this world. And I think that a lot of times we lose that in this society where our value is so tied to something. I think it's different for every single person, but I would ask, what is your identity and your value tied to, and why? Because we have that because we're human, but I think that's something that I work very hard at deconstructing, because there are things that I value that it doesn't make it bad or wrong, but it's like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
I don't actually know the purpose of why I'm here on this earth. I've been shown things and I've walked the path to where it's at now, but like, sometimes we can have a purpose that is our purpose, and our purpose isn't necessarily always our actual purpose. It's what we've decided based on the information that we have in front of us that is what we're meant to do. And I think that ultimately, regardless of what we believe in, like higher power, all of that kind of stuff, I think there's something that I don't, as a human, have the capacity to understand. And like, everything that I do, even the things that I don't like about myself, like, it's all part of the purpose.
It's just like, I have changed so much. When I listen to what you just said, I remember living for so many years when, depending on who you were, I would act a different way. I think there's a certain amount of that in all of us because we act differently, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
when it is a massive difference that takes your life in a very negative spot, which was my case. My point is this: is that what I've had to learn to do, and you've been an example for me as I've gone through what I've gone through in the last year, is to be myself and to not worry or think about what other people are thinking. I think a lot of times with what we're pursuing and what we're in right now is kind of either a test, or it's just an opportunity to learn and grow, and then we can move into something else that may or may not show itself as an opportunity. And I can tell you that's what's happened in my life over the last year or so, and it's been wonderful and hard. But boy, does it feel good being myself instead of trying to be something that I want people to think.
I really do truly believe that part of all of this, it's so funny as a guy who talks about loneliness, right? Because at some level, we do need each other. But at every other level, and I don't think I've ever said this in a public forum, but this life, this experience, everything that we do, it's all us. It's like we are on this journey alone all the time.
Mm.
Like, because, one of the things that I say about connection, like, I've redefined how I talk about connection too. And it's like, connection is your level and ability to face self-rejection. Rejection stops us from making any kind of connection
Yeah.
with people. But here's the thing. So I could be like, Ed, you know what? Yeah, all this you've been talking about unprofessional, man. You are unprofessional, right? Like I could say that could be a form of rejection. Like I'm rejecting you. But look, I just said words. It's like, what did you do with those words? You created what they meant. Like I had my own meaning about them, but rejection is just it's self-imposed like criticism, doubt, whatever comes up when you hear something, whether it's a no, whether it's somebody saying they don't want to join you for something, like we create all that. So how good and how capable are you to ask yourself, well, hey, why am I making that be the story about this? Why am I making that mean that? I think this life is meant to be spent actually revealing ourselves to us.
That is so good. That's good. And that's not easy either.
No.
I understand that. And I think I would have said, oh, I understand year by year by year by year. But when you really more deeply get to know yourself, I find myself saying over and over again, wow, yeah, I really see that more than I ever thought before. And it's great to get there, but it's hard as well. Yeah.
And I would ask you, Ed, specifically this, because it's just coming to me right now. With all that you've got coming up for you and the scary arena that you're stepping into, I would ask you to pause and like have a conversation with little Ed and be like, hey, what are we meant to show people here? What do you need from me? What do I need from you? Like the wallpaper on my phone is a picture of me when I'm a baby. Because we don't, this whole getting older thing, like we just got bigger, people. The little kid that we were is still right here with me, right here with you, wherever you're listening. And they need us as much as we need them. And it's like having a conversation with that part of ourselves, I think is so, so important. And we don't do it. We don't do it because we're grown up, and grown ups don't do that.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And I really need to do that in the process of writing the documentary, which is what we were talking about before.
So you grew into the person that boy needs.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's why it's so important to be like, hey, what do you need right now?
Yeah. That's so good.
Because you're about to talk about things that impact him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And yeah. And so if he's really scared, that's going to impact what comes out of your mouth. That's going to impact where you are willing to be vulnerable. And look, that's one thing I think we also need. We need to have a willingness to be vulnerable with, and we know that they're safe to do. Just don't go do it with everybody. And I think that became a thing on social media. Like everybody gets on and cries about everything. And it's like, this isn't really a safe place to do that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you, Nathan, we're coming to the end. What would you like to promote? What would you like to get people's attention with that would help them that you have?
Yeah, like I said, the Self-Assured Man with Dr. Finan. That's our program. don't have a date or anything for it, but I know that the website will be out with the show notes and everything. And we just want to give men with disabilities a space to own their masculinity, and a space where you get to stop hiding. Like, I went to a emotional intelligence training, and that's the one thing, that the one piece of feedback that I continuously got throughout the whole thing was, Nathan, why are you hiding behind your disability? And I will tell you, in that moment, I would hate to see that lady come back and be the person giving me feedback, because I was like, shit, I'm about to hear this again. But I knew it was real. Like, it hit me every time. And I think when you have a disability, it's so easy to hide because society has said that's the acceptable thing for you to do. That is what we want you to do. We don't want to know that you exist, because if we acknowledge you exist, then guess what that means? Oh shit, that's part of being a human. And disability is treated the way that it is because people who haven't currently been affected by disability realize how human that disability actually is, and they're not ready or capable to deal with that themselves. And so this is just a space to say, look, you are a powerful, capable man, and you just happen to have a disability, and this is a space where that's okay. And we're not going to tell you that you have to be physical to exert your manhood or being man enough. You're man enough as you are right now, but we will hold your ass accountable for whatever you're sharing, because I think that's something that men also need. Like, I was talking to Michelle the other day, and I was like, man, I feel like an asshole right now. And she was like, yeah, I don't think that's what that is. I think you're holding people accountable, and that's just how that gets viewed sometimes, and it's easy to view it that way ourselves. And like, I share what my reality is, and I try my best not to sugarcoat what it is.
That's awesome. Nathan, I appreciate you coming on the show. Big time. Big time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you so much.